Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, October 31st. Another one of those trick-or-treaty days here throughout the world. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain, and many of the stories we have here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com, and here are some of the news stories for the day. A decade-long federal study says that a drier climate on the Navajo Nation is causing sand dunes to grow and move, potentially threatening grazing, roads, and buildings. The study by U.S. Geological Survey geologists found that sand dunes are growing fast and moving more, including old dunes that previously were stable. More than a third of the 27,000 square mile reservation is covered by sand dunes and sand sheets, and it has experienced varying degrees of drought for the past 15 years. Geologist Margaret Heasy Red Steer called the Navajo Nation, specifically the southwestern portion in Arizona, just on the edge of being habitable, according to the Farmington Daily Times. Her work also noted the vulnerability of indigenous people who rely heavily on that land. Two Fort Thompson men face federal murder and burglary charges in the beating death of a Lower Brule Sioux man. The Rapid City Journal reports that 22-year-old Alfonso Drapo and 20-year-old Gavin Drapo have pled not guilty in federal indictments, charging each with first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and aiding and abetting. The men are accused of stomping and beating Heath Traversey to death. Officials say Traversey was attacked on October 2nd. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is releasing $39 million it had been withholding from the Cherokee Nation after the tribe made good on its promise to allow the descendants of slaves once owned by its members to vote in its recent election for chief. Newly elected Principal Chief Bill John Baker announced the release of the funds last Friday. HUD froze the money after the tribe's Supreme Court issued a ruling last August upholding the tribe's decision to expel about 2,800 of the descendants known as freedmen. The 300,000-member tribe eventually brokered a deal with the freedmen in federal court that cleared them to vote in a special election for the Cherokee Nation chief. Hundreds of people peacefully occupied the construction site of a massive hydroelectric dam last week in Brazil's Amazonian state of Para, according to Indian rights activists. The Catholic Church-backed Indian Missionary Council said in a statement posted on its website that more than 600 Indians, fishermen, and river dwellers were demanding that work on the Belo Monte hydroelectric dam be stopped. It said the protesters have no plans of leaving the worksite. Belo Monte will only be built if we cross our arms and do nothing, a local indigenous leader told the Missionary Council. We will not keep quiet. Our ancestors fought so we could be here now. The machinery continues, and the machinery continues to arrive to destroy our region. In a statement, the Norte Energia Consortium that is building the dam confirmed the occupation and said the dam would not affect the property nor the quality of life of indigenous groups and others living in the area who agree with the project. The 11,000 megawatt dam would be the world's third largest when completed in the Zingo River feeding the Amazon. The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and other critics say the dam will displace thousands of Indians and indigenous people and cause environmental damage. The commission has urged the Brazilian government to halt construction. Spokane County Commissioners near Airway Heights, Washington, were barred from commenting when business leaders opposed to a new Indian casino asked them for help in defending Fairchild Air Force Base. The Spokesman Review reported that commissioners are bound to remain silent under a deal in which the county would receive payments to offset the effects of the Spokane Tribe's casino and hotel development. Commissioner Mark Richard defended the intergovernmental agreement that requires commissioners to remain neutral on the casino project, which is under consideration by the U.S. Department of Indian Affairs. The Spokane Tribe's casino proposed is a hotly disputed issue in Spokane County, in part because it's located very close to the Kalispel Tribe's Northern Quest Casino Resort on the western outskirts of that city. Opponents of a proposed oil pipeline from Canada to Texas Gulf Coast rode horses and bicycles and walked on October 27th along a route from Pine Ridge Reservation toward the Rosebud Reservation in southern South Dakota. The protesters included tribal elders, ranchers, and actress Daryl Hannah, who was arrested last summer outside the White House in a protest against TransCanada's proposed Keystone XL pipeline. The 1,700-mile underground pipeline, which would travel through Montana, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, ending up on Texas's Gulf Coast, would carry an estimated 700,000 barrels of oil a day, doubling the capacity of an existing pipeline from Canada. Hannah, speaking by telephone after the short ride, said the pipeline threatens to contaminate the Ogallala Aquifer, a massive water supply in South Dakota and 7 other states, and would further increase the nation's dependence on oil. And tomorrow, join with us when we talk to Lori Thompson and watch for this upcoming annual Harmony Cafe Native Band Jam coming live to you on ICTV on Saturday, November 5th. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country. On this edition of the Native News Update, we want to say Wawanan and Pinagigi for joining with us today, and come back again soon.